As a strength conditioning coach with over a decade of experience working with professional athletes, one common question is, can you be too strong? Another phrase is, how strong is too strong? It's a topic that sparks a lot of debate in the sports performance world. Now, strength is undeniably important, but the question remains, can you ever reach a point where being stronger isn't necessarily better? When we dig into the science, there are a few potential issues that start to surface. Consider the case of a wrestler who has farm boy strength, but can barely squat more than their body weight in the gym. They're strong in their sport, but may not match that in the weight room. And as I'll discuss in this video, focusing solely on increasing your max lifts can lead to diminishing returns in performance. Something I've been saying for years on my podcast and blogs that's supported by research like the findings by Newton and Kramer back in 2001. I'm going to break down this topic in detail, exploring whether it's possible to be too strong and whether chasing higher and higher numbers is the best approach. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of when to focus on strength gains and how to train for optimal sports performance. We're going to start with strength, and strength is typically measured by the maximum weight lifted during compound exercises, your 1 rep max or 1 RM, typically done with exercises like the squat, bench press, pull-up, deadlift, etc. Expression of force during a highly coordinated movement. The goal is to transfer this newfound strength developed through these movements to other specific sporting coordinated movements. For example, running, punching, tackling, etc. In that sense, you can never be too strong, as you want to apply the maximum force to the ground or to the target. To do that, you must possess the ability to produce that force first. And I wish that could be the end of the video, but there are 3 potential issues with this idea. The first one, strength in a compound exercise does not always equal strength during a sporting movement, as it's an expression of force for that movement. Easy examples like my wrestler example I mentioned earlier. You've all trained against someone who has that brute strength on the mats, that as soon as they put their hands on you, there's no way you're getting away. That doesn't mean they're strong in the gym or gym strong. It means they're quote unquote mat strong, which means an athlete is strong in one movement or one area, but not during a non-related activity. So chasing heavier and heavier numbers may not be the answer in this situation. Potential issue number 2, maximum strength is force expressed irrespective of time, meaning that during a squat, deadlift, bench press, you have unlimited time to get the bar from the bottom to the top. Unfortunately, sports have time constraints. For example, trying to land that punch or kick, trying to shoot that double leg takedown, or even seizing that opportunity to pass someone's guard. All of these require force generated in short time periods. And the third potential issue, the time spent getting stronger at a certain point skews training too far to this quality of maximum strength. The adaptations at this point become unfavorable to sports performance. Now, this graph I'm going to put up here is by Rob Newton and Will Kramer, I believe in 2001, and illustrates my point really well, where it shows heavy resistance trained subjects are not able to produce as much force as quickly as power athletes. So the solid line represents untrained subjects. We see lower maximum strength and lower force generated at 200 milliseconds. The dashed line represents heavy resistance trained athletes. So for example, powerlifters. They have the highest force generation at 500 milliseconds to represent maximum strength, with slightly higher force at 200 milliseconds compared to untrained lifters. Now, if we go to the dotted line, this represents light resistance power trained athletes. So for example, track athletes who don't display the same maximum strength as the powerlifters, but show much greater force generated below 200 milliseconds. Having this power trained profile is more advantageous to combat sports than the heavy resistance trained profile because you can produce more force in shorter time frames. Since all sports are constrained by time, your primary goal should be just this. So instead, we should reframe can you be too strong to can you spend too much time chasing maximal strength numbers? To a certain point, I believe yes, you can spend too much time doing that. Once strength gains slow, you must perform more volume and or more frequency of lifting to add pounds on the bar, taking away from other qualities and incurring more fatigue. As you can imagine, this has a negative impact on technical training, but also a negative impact on other qualities that you may be trying to bring up, since a lot of your energy and time is directed towards improving maximal strength. One point that is often neglected and not talked about when we're talking about strength training is the ability to contract and relax appropriately. It's a coordinated skill top athletes possess, and you know it when you see it. It's effortless movement and fluid rhythm. Think of any of the great fighters you love to watch. Floyd Mayweather, Anderson Silva, Khabib, Alex Pereira, you name it. I could almost guarantee these fighters can't squat twice their body weight ass to grass or below parallel, but they possess a superior skill set, a superior knowledge of the sport, and are able to dictate the momentum of the fight to their own rhythm. Anyone who's spent years in strength sports before making a comeback to athletic sports knows firsthand what you lose, and that's me included. You become stiff, quote unquote, and you lose the ability to separate upper and lower body, such as when you're performing rotational movements, and you gain the ability to grind through reps. These are positive adaptations for lifting heavy weights, but they're not so much for sports performance. I really like what strength and conditioning coach Mark Bennett said on the Sweet Science of Fighting podcast. You can go and check that out on the podcast channel around maximal strength training. He says, chase the adaptation from heavy lifting, and getting stronger or adding more weight to the bar becomes a side effect, meaning we aren't chasing numbers on the bar, but use the heavy loading to target the positive adaptations from heavy strength training. I'm not saying to avoid heavy strength training and getting stronger altogether. I'm saying that chasing more heavier and heavier numbers probably isn't the best use of your time. Instead, use heavy lifting to drive the adaptation you want. And these adaptations, for example, are increased agonist muscle activation. So being able to activate the prime moving muscles. So for example, if you're performing a squat, the prime moving muscles are the quads. You're able to recruit fast twitch muscle fibers, improving force generation in those. You're able to desensitize the Golgi tendon organ, which pumps the brakes on force production as a protective mechanism. So if we desensitize that, we're able to, again, increase our ceiling of force production. So overall, you can't be too strong, but you can spend too much time and too much energy trying to become too strong. In the description, grab your free MMA strength and conditioning blueprint. It is down there. It'll take you through everything you need to know for strength and conditioning for MMA. And I'll see you in the next video.